Hey, what's happening, y'all? So, I just got done watching the Avid webinar, so I thought I would do that update that I said I would do. And this is probably going to be my last video on the subject matter. It's starting to get a little bit tiresome for all of us, I think. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready to move on to other topics. But I did say I would do an update video, so that's what I'm going to do. And, after watching that, was I maybe initially a little alarmist, or maybe even outright wrong? Perhaps. But let's find out why. You silly mutt. So, after the webinar, let's just start with what the biggest controversy has been since I first uploaded that first video, which was my interpretation of how they were likely to handle the migration of perpetual users to subscriptions eventually. And to be clear, and I'm not going to say this in a lot of videos, but I feel like with the controversy that happened, I need to say this here. This is an opinion piece. When I speak, I get in trouble with this, like with my wife a lot, because I'm an English major, and in MLA style writing, when you're writing, you don't put "in my opinion" in front of everything because it's assumed it's your opinion because you're writing it. So I'm here, I'm talking about this. I don't work for Avid. I don't work for Reaper. I don't work for any of these companies. I work for myself. So obviously, this is my opinion and my interpretation. Um, if y'all like my thoughts, cool. But I'm not saying that my interpretation is 100% fact. I'm reacting along with you guys. But during the presentation, like the first thing, they kind of mentioned it a little bit, and they brought up, and there was a screen where they said current perpetual users are not affected by this change. Okay, and on there was a thing that said upgrade, get current for $349. So later that was clarified, and they said that the $350 is the reinstatement plan, basically, that's been around for a long time. So they're keeping the reinstatement plan, and I did confirm if you are a current existing perpetual license holder, you can log into your Avid portal, and there is the option to renew your perpetual license for the same $200. So that's good. I was incorrect in how that was going to work immediately. Now, I did put in the chat and there were several questions about this, and it was kind of frustrating that, like, in the chat, it would show the people's questions, and then there's a little blue thing that said see all responses. You could go, and they had people on staff who were there typing out responses, and they answered everything but the subscription questions, which was kind of aggravating. And there it just said, this question has been answered live. But there was 3 or 4 that were showing up specifically about that. They did say that resellers only have a limited stock of perpetual license keys available. So there's still some confusion there, and I put in the chat, sorry to beat a dead horse, but can we clarify what moving to the equivalent tier and continued support for perpetual really means? For how long will we be allowed to continue getting update and support plans for existing perpetual licenses? And once our current plan expires, will we have to migrate to subscription in order to get updates? Or are we grandfathered in for a number of years? And so basically, yeah, if they're letting us, my question is, if they're letting us continue to get perpetual licenses, because that's what we're doing, can we get them to, like, tell us how long that's going to last? Because that's really what I'm not seeing, and that's what leaves me uncertain. I like the Pro Tools software. The price is high relative to the competition, but it's like right on that edge of, is it so high that I don't want to pay it type of thing. And for $200 a year, to continue my upgrade plan, or my upgrades and support plan, and keep doing that for $200 a year, I can do that compared to $300 a year to subscribe. Like, that makes sense for me. That's good for me personally. But if there's that big a price difference annually in subscribers versus perpetual, how long are they going to keep allowing us to do that? Especially if they're only allowing new users to get on the subscription. And I didn't get any clear answers on how that's going to work down the line. Like, I think pretty much what's being said right now is gets us comfortable now and saying, okay, you're not affected by this change. You're good. Everything is going to stay copacetic for you if you have an existing perpetual license. Don't worry about it. It almost puts me off guard and go, okay, yeah, that's cool. All right, cool. Good deal for me, right? But then I start thinking about going, wait, and this is probably my inherent mistrust of companies, especially big publicly traded ones like Avid, where I'm going, I don't know. How long is this going to last? Like, at what point are you going to cut me off and say, now you have to jump on the boat? Will it happen? Will it not happen? I don't know. I looked through the pages on the Avid website about the upgrades and renewal stuff, and listen to that webinar, and then I went to a video on Pro Tools Answers where they have a guy who's an Avid employee. Yeah, like, I think for the next year or two anyway, if you are an existing perpetual license holder, we should be largely unaffected, and we should be getting an actually really great deal because we're getting all the same stuff as the subscribers, but for $100 less a year. My only concern is how long that's going to last, and that's something I haven't seen in writing or heard a representative of Avid directly state. So I'm just a little concerned there. And if I was content to just say, well, I'm in good shape and move on with life, this would be a non-issue. And then you just get into the whole philosophy of software as a service, which people keep saying it's not going anywhere. And there's a lot of us that are just kind of inherently opposed to the idea. Like, I'm not opposed to subscriptions because, like, my wife and I subscribe to BBC, the BBC thing, so we can watch Classic Who. And, at one point we paid for Prime. We recently got rid of it because, well, that's a whole other discussion. But, we do pay for some subscriptions. And I don't have a problem with that. But then I think about it and going, okay, so if a new video game released, would I pay $20 a month or even $5 a month to play Horizon Zero Dawn? And just that game. Even if they included all the DLC. No. No. But would I pay $65 a year for PlayStation Plus and have 2 to 3 new free games added to my account every month as part of that subscription, which also lets me play online? I mean, apparently I would, because I've done it for a number of years. But then I feel like I'm, again, like we talked about in the last video, I'm getting something each month that's new along with that subscription. And whatever games from that subscription that I add to my account, I keep as long as I maintain that subscription. If I stop paying for PS Plus, they all go away, which is, see, that's a little hiccup where I think, I don't know, I don't have Xbox, but I've heard Xbox works a little differently with that. So yeah, the whole subscription thing is such a gray area right now, and I think culturally we're kind of working through what that means in our economy. But specifically with the Pro Tools thing, I do feel like it's a little overpriced, and I wouldn't jump on the subscription bus at that price. Now, would I keep paying $200 to maintain my perpetual? Yes, I feel like that's reasonable. And part of it is this whole the Avid ecosystem, right? And I'm trying to think through, why was I so viscerally affected by the subscription announcement? So much so that I decided to vent on YouTube, right? Which is very unlike me. You can look at my channel history. That's not something I do. So what about it triggered me or hit me like that? I'm Pro Tools certified, and I mean, it's been a while. I'm certified in Pro Tools 10 HD for music, but I went through the Avid training. I mean, look, you know, um, Pro Tools 101, Pro Tools 110, Pro Tools 201, and 210, and I've even got the 301, the expert level certification book. That I've gone through all this, right? And so I learned on the closed Avid systems, which were all HD systems in school. And from there, I started, interviewing and talking to studios and going and trying to get internships at studios that were all closed Pro Tools HD studios. So I went from a closed Avid environment to a closed Avid environment, and my selling point was I know Avid, right? Trying to get into the doors, like I already know Pro Tools, right? And now I'm in a different position where I'm at a indie studio, home studio, with equipment that's not software locked. I don't have to stick with Pro Tools if I don't want. And I have my own budget to maintain. And my budget affects my family. And that's when I really have to start thinking about even the most minute costs, right? And 'cause if I have a rough month, that extra $100 could make a huge difference. So I think that's a big part of it. It's like now my mindset has shifted because I'm not locked into an Avid closed ecosystem where that's the only option. And it's kind of opening my mind to the fact that there are other options. I mean, I knew about Logic because I've got an old book. I knew about Reason. I've got Reason version something or other. Knowing about them and just kind of, shrugging them off because, well, I'm a Pro Tools user. And knowing about them and going, do they provide more value than Pro Tools is a very different mindset. And I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm shifting my perspective a little bit because of that and starting to see the value in other systems. I still don't agree with some of Avid's business practices. And some of that came up when I went and watched that Pro Tools answer video. So let me go through my notes on that. That's a good point. So they talked a little bit about Pro Tools Artist versus Pro Tools First. And it became clear from listening that like Pro Tools Artist is really geared towards entry level. Kind of like Pro Tools First was supposed to be, but was horribly broken. And even the Avid employee who was on that video didn't seem very impressed with First, and was openly acknowledging how limited First really was. And it's kind of like Pro Tools Artist is what Pro Tools First should have been, is kind of the sentiment I'm getting. They talked a little bit about the features of Ultimate that are moving down into Studio, like surround and support. I don't know if it was mentioned in here, but there are certain encoders, like for surround, that can't, I think it's like Dolby Atmos, can't be included in Pro Tools. So you can mix in Atmos, but you'd still have to purchase a separate encoder. And I think those get prohibitively expensive. I don't really know. I haven't looked into them. And it was also pointed out that like Logic and Cubase did surround support ages ago. So that it's still a catch-up thing, right? They were talking about native support for Venue, which used to you had to have an HD system in order to use a Venue console, but And again, that's talking about a locked Avid ecosystem. They did say that they were increasing support for drivers beyond ASIO. They said that only annual subscribers are going to get Inner Circle access now. So Inner Circle is kind of their thing where they, hey, we've made a deal with AutoTune and now you get a free 30-day trial of AutoTune Unlimited. And there's a lot of stuff has been like weird trials that are really just meant to sell you on a partner. That's kind of been aggravating from what we've gotten thus far. But there are some good things, like they've released some cool sound libraries, some sound effects, and some stock music that I've used periodically. Though, one time when I was working at a previous day job as a video producer and web developer, I used one of their songs in a YouTube video and it got a copyright strike. So, that's something to look out for too. But yeah, the Avid Inner Circle is where they're putting all the extra goodies that you would think that are kind of what I was talking about with having a subscription provide value and like monthly new things that make it worth paying for, right? So that's all in the Avid Inner Circle, but you only get access to that if you're an annual subscriber, not a monthly, which I thought was interesting. Using HD native or HDX DSP processing and interfaces and cards and all that stuff still requires Pro Tools Ultimate, which is included in the $1,000 Flex subscription, which is a whole thing. Like Flex includes some different stuff, and part of that is Pro Tools Ultimate. Kind of weird. But again, it's like it's this Avid locked ecosystem, right? Where if you're going to use our hardware, you have to pay this extra premium to use it, to get the DSP chips, to get the higher track counts. But if they're saying in order to use the high track counts of Pro Tools HD or Pro Tools Ultimate, then you need a better quality interface, and so now they're trying to force you to get the bigger, better interfaces. And well, if you're going to have this bigger, better interface, you can't really use the all the benefits of that unless you have these higher track counts and the increased capabilities of Pro Tools Ultimate, and it creates this like cyclical thing, which it might make sense in. And they talked in this video with Pro Tools Answers, they talked a lot about the big houses like Skywalker Sound and these places that the vast majority of us will never ever in our lives see the like. But that brought up another point, and that was the support features. So they said standard support is included in Artist and Studio. But to get Expert Plus support, you have to be a Flex subscriber, which is $1,000 a year. And he made a point on if you are a big broadcast house or a place like Skywalker Sound, if something goes down, you need help immediately. And I think that was supposed to be like a good point, but as the other guy, right? I don't work for Skywalker Sound. I don't need help immediately. Like if my system crashes, I've got an artist in here. Who cares? Because I'm a little guy. That was kind of the message that gave to me. It didn't feel good. And that's like that's just a weird thing to have different tiers of support, right? Like you would think a company would value its customer base and just want to get them taken care of. And I'm sure they're probably saying that, or they would probably say that standard support is perfect for the vast majority of users, and that the support team does a great job. And I'm sure they tried to. I'm sure. And same thing with, like, I don't want any of this to come across as disparaging to the employees of Avid, the support teams, the developers. Like, these are all people who are doing their darndest to create a product and a service that is useful to us. And yeah, as much as I've been kind of complaining these last couple videos and pointing out critically things that I'm thinking about, I really don't want to disparage those guys. I mean, they're working hard and doing what they can. I just don't necessarily agree with the decisions of the big guys they work for. And so then in the Pro Tools Answers video, they continued and said that, talked about the subscription only thing and said, well, the world is going subscription. Okay. Maybe. If the consumer base has nothing to say about it. And they said that the guy who worked for Avid said that when they introduced subscriptions, that they were very popular, which is contrary to what I would have thought, right? I would have thought that kind of would have been poshed away. But yeah, he said that it was very popular. They started seeing lots of people jumping on subscriptions instead of ownership. And this guy said that was like us, and felt very strongly about ownership. And this is a phone. This is my phone. I own it. You can't just take it from me, type of thing. But then the longer he's done the math and looked at things and how things are playing out, the more open he's become to software as a service and subscription fees. The idea that the whole world is and all software is eventually just going to be subscription only, I don't know about that. Like that is a conjecture that I'm not quite willing to make. Not yet. They also talked about how companies can't always offer free app updates. Well, let's be clear here. Avid's updates have never been free. That's what the upgrade, and support plan is. You're paying for that. It's not. See, that I think that's kind of a misnomer of, well, of course they've got to charge you and start doing subscriptions. They can't just keep giving you free software. And I'm like, when has that ever happened? The same guy said something about life being expensive these days and software developers need to make money. Well, that's what a lot of us have been saying to Avid. Life is expensive these days. We don't have money to spare. I mean, I think that's another reason why companies like Avid are getting so much pushback, because it's tight right now. Things are not looking good, and it's the same in lots of places around the world. Artists are struggling. The music industry is changing. So what that means to the user base, I think, is changing as far as what funds are available to pay for things like software. How is that affecting our perspective of this software? And is that part of why companies like Avid are getting so much pushback, and why I had that instinctive reaction of, whoa, wait, you're going to charge me $100 a year more to not own my software? So, I mean, life is expensive. That guy was right. He's absolutely right. And not only does that mean that Avid needs to maybe adjust things and adjust their structure to keep making a profit, because I'm not saying they shouldn't make a profit, but artists and indie studios and professional studios are having to be more conscious about where their dollars are going. The next point that they made on the subscription only thing is, well, no one's forcing you to update your system. True. But then another guy in the podcast said, well, I mean, the world forces you to update, right? And saying that at one point he got a new Magic Mouse for Christmas, and when he tried to use it, his operating system wouldn't support his new Magic Mouse, so he had to completely update his operating system in order to use the Magic Mouse, which then his SSL wouldn't work with his new operating system, so then he had to go about doing a bunch of updates for his SSL console. And I mean, he's right there. Like, the world forces you to update. And so that was an argument from them in support of subscription services, because then you are continually paying for support. They're continually releasing updates, and from there you don't have to worry about having to keep everything updated. And they're saying that the subscription fees make sure that developers always have the resources to continue making those updates, and the company continues to make a profit, which makes sense. But then you think about it and you go, but they've always made a profit. Before the whole subscription thing became a deal, and there were these other options, like a $99 upgrade path, and now a $200 upgrade path. And it's one of those weird things where people are saying, well, this is how we get around these issues that really haven't been issues. Or if they have, they haven't been an issue for me. Let's put it that way. And they made a point that a perpetual license is still not ownership, right? So he was saying that a perpetual license, we are still just licensed to use that software by the software developer, and that's how software has always been. And we don't actually own anything. We've never owned a copy of Pro Tools. That we have bought the right to use Pro Tools from Avid, and they let us. And under the agreement that we have purchased the right to use up to a certain version, and then we must pay to get access to another version, so on and so forth. Just kind of a fair point. I mean, but then imagine the uproar if Avid suddenly said, well, we decided that you don't get to have a license to use Pro Tools. We don't like you. Or your version's too old. We're just gonna completely revoke. You're on Pro Tools 10. Well, we don't like 10. So even though you bought a perpetual license and you haven't updated your system and everything works for you, we're just gonna yoink, right? Like with the perpetual license, because there is an agreement that this is perpetual, they would catch a lot of crap for that. Whereas I don't know that they would catch the same crap with the subscription model. So that's a little, that's some weird thoughts on that. It's something to explore. And another point here was that the more subscription customers that Avid got when they rolled out the subscription services at first, the more money, power, and stability the company had, which meant that they could release updates more frequently, that they didn't have to hold back updates for the next release version, which, let's be clear, they didn't have to do that. That would be a company choice. If you've got an update or a patch that's going to fix issues that your customers are having, and you choose to hold it back until the next release version so you can charge people for it, that's not a have to. That is a company choice, especially in the modern environment where internet connectivity is everywhere, and it's pretty shady. I'm sure it happens a lot behind closed doors where marketing teams and CEOs are going, okay, well, we need to maximize our profits. If we release this now, then okay, well, it'll not be a big hubbubaloo if we wait to release this patch until version 12 and include it as a big thing. Well, hey, we are now compliant with Big Sierra. I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there. And we're now compatible with Big Sierra, and as well there's a new dark mode, right? So now it's a big feature sell for a new software version when it should have been a patch to take care of the customer base, because there's a path there where your customer's having to do something to take care of a hardware system and your software isn't keeping up. So But the other side of that coin, and this is what the guy pointed out, that it's very good for the development team, because then the development team has resources to continually update, and they're not having to worry. Well, he didn't say this part, but I'm assuming this part, that then they don't have to worry about the big dogs telling them, well, don't do that yet. We need to wait until we're doing a major version update to take care of this, and this. And so then the development team is no longer held back by the big dogs. They're allowed to develop, which is a good thing, but it also has some weird connotations for the industry and the way software development works, right? It's a weird discussion and a weird thought process to have, because, like, yeah, I want our developers to be able to create and innovate and to come up with good stuff. But should I have to relinquish perpetual ownership or licensing for a product and pay more fees and promise to pay constantly, and if I don't pay, then Papa Avid takes away, in order to for the developers to have that kind of stability, right? Is that a good thing for software subscriptions, or is that a strike against a company for holding back its developers? I it's a hard one. I would love it if companies were all just ethical, did the right thing, and took care of the customer base, and yeah, make a profit, but aren't looking to make record billions for their shareholders. Meanwhile, they're leaving the customer base out to dry. And is this a big part of why this discussion is happening and why that first video got such a reaction? That we are looking at this and we are thinking about, is this right? Another thing, they did talk a lot about the new things, like the two new plugins, the synth and the drum machine thing, which I wasn't too impressed with, but and they talked about custom shortcuts now, which again has been a thing with Reaper for ever. And it was interesting hearing the Avid employee talk about this and saying that there were, that he personally had concerns about implementing custom shortcuts. And you could tell that he knew that there's becoming a bit of a bad taste in people's mouths around the whole industry standard thing, because he made a point of saying, because Pro Tools is the industry standard, not in marketing term, but just because it's been so widely adopted that it just is. So they know, or at least this guy knows, that people aren't happy with just banning the whole, well, it's the industry standard thing. But he said because it has been so widely adopted, and the shortcuts and the things that have been just built into Pro Tools for decades, that there's been a lot of resignation about allowing another option, because it's supposed to be interoperable. So, I'm a independent producer, but I know Pro Tools, I can go to a studio, I know what everything does. Just a fair point. There's some things where it's nice for your customer to be able to say, well, I want this to do this. And the thing that he said brought him around to when they decided to allow custom shortcuts was having the ability to hit restore to default, basically. It's weird. Like, I'm listening to him going, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then now I'm talking about him going, well, I mean, what's the big deal? Oh. So yeah, he was saying that he thinks it's just going to become a standard practice now to start a Pro Tools session, be doing things, and then, when you're leaving a studio that's not yours, they say, hey, zero out your shortcuts, just like we would zero out a console. And you hit restore defaults, and then everything's set back to normal. And they were saying that another big deal is the being able to use macros, which things like Reaper have, where you can say, okay, well, I'm going to set up this shortcut, and it's going to initiate this macro that's going to do actions A, B, C, and D. and do that with one keystroke, right? Sounds really cool. And Pro Tools has never had that. So now they are having that, but only for Flex subscribers, the highest tier. And then, even there, you can't create your own macros except, because this is all done with SoundFlow, right? It's a separate third party software. But with SoundFlow, the version that allows you to create your own macros versus access their library of like 1600 macros is it's a 90-day trial of the system that lets you create your own macros. So even then, there's kind of this artificial limitation. Kind of cool. But again, it's like if I'm going to dive into using macros and stuff of that, like I would rather use a system like Reaper where it's not third party, it's built in, and I can theoretically, I still haven't opened Reaper. That's going to be like here's an idea I have. I want to do like a live stream of my first time using Reaper and just kind of try producing a rough song. So I'm trying to get through all this Avid Pro Tool stuff and get that through and out here so that then I can jump over and do a trial run of Reaper and just see what happens. We'll see. I might like it. I might not. As it stands, it looks like I'm going to be able to continue using Pro Tools and not lose my perpetual license, and everything looks like it's going to be largely copacetic there, unless I just decide, and this I'm leaning towards it. I'm not going to say for certain, but I'm really leaning towards I don't want to give Avid any more money. And some of these business practices I don't agree with. I don't agree with the subscription model for standalone software. I don't agree with having different service tiers and, not prioritizing companies and creators who don't earn as much and aren't as big. I mean, if you've got to do that, you need to hire more support staff. Honestly, that's not cool. I have little to no respect for authority or hierarchy. It's just a thing. I used to get in trouble when I worked at a school district because I didn't care that the superintendent was the superintendent. I didn't care that the board president was the board president. I still don't. I remember one time the board president walked in the building, like, "Hey, Dave, how you doing?" Just talking to him like he's a friend. And he's looking at me like, "How dare you address me?" And of course, this is Texas, right? These board members are all volunteers, unpaid, and this guy was like a preacher. But so shocked that I just addressed him like a normal person. And I am of the opinion that your role as a superintendent and CEO, janitor, whatever, is a job. You have more pay because you have more responsibility, but you are not better than your janitor. You're just not. I'm sorry. You are not inherently a better human being because of status. That is something that I believe deep, deep, deep in my soul. Your lowest paying customer deserves just as much attention and care as your highest paying. Sometimes you have to restructure things, and like I'll have an artist who just doesn't have a whole lot of money. And so I have to reduce my costs and restructure some things to make sure that they get the service and the product they deserve at a rate they can afford. Whereas other artists may have plenty of money and they can afford to get all the bells and whistles, right? And that's cool. But at the same time, nobody goes without what they need. And I think that's a very important distinction. And that's something that when they talk about paying for different support tiers and one of them gets fast service and the other doesn't, it irks me. That is something I don't agree with. And if that's the case, then funnel some of those profits into hiring more support staff so you can take care of your customer base. So yeah, there's some of that stuff that I just don't agree with. And so now I've got to make that, now that I've gotten more information, I have to have that internal debate on, is it worth paying $200 a year to keep my perpetual going until they decide to completely do away with that, which, if I had to guess, I would say is going to be coming at some point. Or do I direct my dollars elsewhere? And that is a personal choice that everybody needs to make, and should always do your own individual research. I will put that out there. Research independently, verify, fact check. If you find that I'm wrong, send me a link to your resource. Please put in the comments. Put a link to the resource and fact check me. Just be respectful. That's going to be my rule for this channel. We are all to support, encourage each other in mutual growth, and that might involve saying when we're wrong. Like me admitting that I was wrong and how I understood the perpetual licenses would be handled. I think that's important, and that's the kind of community that I want to create with this channel. I hope people think of me as something of a thought leader and enjoy my unique perspective on things, but by no means do I think I have all the answers. So the only other thing that was interesting about the whole Pro Tools thing, that it's weird that such a small thing is such a big thing with Pro Tools, and that's aux tracks instantiating as solo safe. Such a little thing, but it's a big thing for Pro Tools users, not having to go and control click on solo on every single aux track we create. That's just been my thoughts after getting more information, and I still don't really agree with a lot of what's going on with the whole Avid thing, but I did need to do the responsible thing and recant a little bit about what information I thought I had gleaned. Feel free to comment, leave your thoughts. If you found any other resources and have any other information, feel free to leave those in the comments. Links to the website and then the merch store, I'll put that in the description. Next thing is I've got a video coming out on Friday, May 6th that I did a couple months ago, where I am going through some different ways of recording electric guitar, whether that's miking up with a modeling mic or with an SM57, or using the emulated out of an amp or the emulated out of a load box, or going straight in the DI and using a virtual amp. Just try a whole bunch of stuff and see what we think. So check that out on the 6th. And other than that, you're awesome. I appreciate you, and have a good one.